Okay, hello everyone. So we are from group 5. Here we would like to present our topic, which is about entrepreneurship in education. So before we start our presentation, let us introduce ourselves first. So I am Bolita Sagala, and also my partner is Isma Yuliana Siregar and Rina Salfina. So in this presentation, we would like to present our material, and we use one source, which is from the book from OECD with the title Entrepreneurship in Education. It explained about what, why, when, and how about entrepreneurship in education. So for the first material, will be presented by Rina Salfina. Rina, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ulinta. Okay, in this slide, I will explain what entrepreneurship in education is. So, we often hear the term entrepreneurship in education. Sometimes we think that it only means opening or running a business that focus on creative and innovative way of thinking and acting. However, entrepreneurship is not only about starting a business. In the context of education, entrepreneurship is about creating value for others. This value is not always in the form of money, but it can be in the form of first, financial value. The value created is not only money or financial profit, but it can still have economic value. For example, by creating educational product or service such as textbook, private tutoring, digital learning media, or course programs that are useful and have economic value. Next, social. Social value in entrepreneurship in educational also create social value. For example, activities that help improve student learning quality, solve learning motivation problem, build cooperation, and give a positive impact on the community around the school. And the last, culture value is related to preserving culture or social identity to the learning process. So, entrepreneurship in education is not only aimed at gain profit, but more about giving real benefit, building character, and creating positive change in the world of education. The next slide. Next slide. And the next slide is about difference between the narrow view and the wide view of entrepreneurship. First, I will explain the narrow view. The narrow view focuses on starting a business or business startup and venture creation. So, entrepreneurship is learned as an activity of building and running a business with the goal of making profit. Moreover, the narrow view is mostly taught in higher education. And then the wide view studies entrepreneurship in a broad way that emphasizes creative, innovative, and problem-solving skills. So the wide view is suitable to be applied because it's relevant for all students. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, in the next slide, I will explain about teaching approach. There are three approaches to teaching entrepreneurship. First, teaching about entrepreneurship with focus on theory. So students learn concepts such as the definition of entrepreneurship, characteristic of entrepreneurship, business model, and type of business, and others. And the next teaching for entrepreneurship, which focus on developing business skills. Students are trained to master skills such as marketing, financial planning, communication, teamwork, and problem solving, and others. And the last one is teaching to entrepreneurship with emphasis learning to direct practice. For example, students are given projects to create real value, such as making a product or running a small project. The strongest and most effective approach is teaching to entrepreneurship. It is because students not only learn theory and skill, but also apply them direct in real life. And the last slide. Next slide, please. Okay, and the last slide from me is about the core concept, learning by creating value. The core concept of this approach is learning by creating value. Students produce something useful for people outside the classroom. This means students not only learn to finish text or get grades, but they learn by creating real benefit for others outside the classroom. To create benefit for others outside the classroom, there are three main learning processes. First, action, where learning happens by doing directly. They plan, create, and carry out idea or project. Not only listen to the teacher explain or read materials. Next, interaction. Interaction help develop communication skill, cooperation, and understanding real need in the real world. And the last, reflection, which is the process of reviewing the experience that have been done to understand what has worked well and what need to be improved. I think that's all for me. Back to moderator.
Okay, thank you, Rina. So the next material will be presented by Isma Yuliana. Isma, time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the moderator. So now I will explain the next slide, please. Okay, now I will explain the why entrepreneurship in education is important. First, we will look at the economic reason, which are the most common argument. Entrepreneurship education is often connected to job creation, economic growth, innovation, and global competitiveness. When students learn entrepreneurial skill, they are more prepared to start business in the future. So this can help reduce unemployment and increase economic development in a country. In addition, entrepreneurship encourage the innovation. So the student learn how to create new ideas, new product, and new solution. This is very important to this competitive global world. However, these economic reasons are actually stronger for the university student because they are closer to entering the job. And now let's move to the educational benefits. Next slide, please. So the entrepreneurship in education can increase the student motivation. When students work on real project and solve real problem, learnings become more meaningful. So they don't only study theory, but they see the real impact of their work. It also encourages the creativity. Students are trying to think differently and find the new solution. In addition, it builds confidence. When students successfully create something valuable, they feel proud and believe in their abilities. Entrepreneurship education also develops responsibility because the student must manage tasks, work in team, and complete the real project. Next is the entrepreneurship education develop what we call entrepreneurial competence. These competence include three main areas. The first is knowledge, next is skill, and last is attitude. For the first is knowledge, students learn how to recognize opportunities and understand the possible risks. And for the second is the risk. So the student develop teamwork, communication skill, and problem-solving abilities. So these skills are very important, not only in business, but also in everyday life. And for the third, attitudes. So students build self-confidence, proactiveness, perseverance, and tolerance for uncertainty. They learn that failure is part of the learning process and they become more resilient. These competencies are often called non-cognitive skills, and research shows that they are essential for the future success, even more than academic knowledge alone. So, entrepreneurship in education is not only about the preparing students to become business owners, it is about preparing them to become creative, confident, responsible, and proactive individual. Now the question is, if it really important, when and how should schools apply it? For the next material, I will pass the presentation to the Olinta. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Isma. So the next material will be presented by me. So here I will explain about when the entrepreneurial education should be introduced. Okay, so actually entrepreneurial education should follow a progression because it should not be introduced in the same way at every educational level. Okay, so instead it should develop gradually from primary school to higher education. First, here we have it should start early, means that even at a primary school. However, at this level, entrepreneurship is not about starting a business. It uses a wide definition of entrepreneurship. So the wide definition focuses on developing mindset and character. It also includes about their creativity, initiative, responsibility, and teamwork, and also the problem solving. So at this stage, students learn how to act on ideas and how to create small forms of value for others. So in early education, the goal is not to produce the entrepreneurs, but the goal is to help students become entrepreneurial. This means they are proactive, confident, and willing to take initiative. As students move to secondary school and university, the approach can be more business focused. This is the narrow definition of entrepreneurship. So here, students can learn about venture creation, business planning and marketing, and also finance. So we can see a clear progression here. Early level focuses on mindset and creativity, and high level may focus on business and venture creation. And then another important point is that entrepreneurship should not only be taught as a separate subject, it should be embedded across the curriculum. So students can apply knowledge from subjects like English, science, or social studies to create value for real people. So when entrepreneurship is embedded, it increases motivation and supports supports deeper learning because students see the real purpose of what they are studying. Okay, so next, how should it be implemented? So the first, the most important approach is actually learning by doing. However, it is not just about doing activities in class, it is about learning by creating the value. So this means students must create value for someone outside the school. For example, they can solve a real community problem or design something useful for others. So when students realize that their work matters to real people, their motivation also increases, right? And teamwork is also very, very important. Students should work in teams because collaboration develops leadership, communication skills, and also the social skills. So in real life, innovation usually happens in teams, not alone. Okay, so another key element is real-world interactions. Students should interact with community members or organization or even the local businesses. So this interaction actually makes the learning more authentic and meaningful. So students should also work on a real problem, not just artificial classroom tasks when the problem is, and so when the problem is authentic, students feel more engaged and responsible. And finally, entrepreneurial education. Entrepreneurial education must follow risk and failure here. It means that
Yes, Ulinta.
okay, so I will continue. So the try new ideas and sometimes fail, they develop perseverance. So it's like confidence and resilience. So here, actually, failure becomes part of the learning process, not just something to avoid. And then, for example, here there are several examples like community campaign. First, students can create a campaign to solve a local problem, such as environmental issues or social challenges, and then they can identify the problem, design a solution, and present it to the community. And then the second, students can also design a product for community use. They can identify a need and then create a prototype, test it with real users, and improve it based on feedback. And then the third, students can also organize social projects such as charity events or awareness programs. So these activities create social and cultural value. And then the fourth, students can also interact with local businesses. Like I said before, they can interview entrepreneurs, analyze real challenges, or collaborate on small projects. And then the most important principle is this: value must be created for real people outside the school. If students only produce something for the teacher to grade, it is not fully entrepreneurial education. Idea is value creation, okay? So to do a lot of things, there is no one perfect in this world. So of course, first, like time and resource limitation and teacher readiness, assessment difficulties, fear of commercial. So I will explain this. First challenge is time and resources. As limited time and must follow a structured curriculum, right? So entrepreneurial projects really require planning and coordination. And also the second challenge here, we have the teacher readiness itself. So some teachers may feel unprepared because this approach is predictable than traditional teaching. So the teacher's role shifts from knowledge to facilitator. And then the next challenge is the assessment itself, because it focuses on exams and cognitive knowledge. So however, with attitudes, engaged collaboration, and perseverance, these are more difficult to measure, right? So therefore, assessment may need of self-reflection and formative methods. And then another challenge is that entrepreneurship brings too much commercial thinking into education. However, entrepreneurship is not only about business or profit, it's about creating value for society. That value can be social, cultural, skill. So in conclusion, entrepreneurship in education, it's all about teaching students to value for others, okay? Means that it increases motivation and engagement because students see real in their work. It supports deep learning because students apply knowledge in real life situations. And it also resilience, creativity, initiative, and responsibility. And remember that entrepreneurship should be introduced progressively. Wide definition at early education, more business-focused education, and embedded across subject, not only as a separate course, okay? So the core idea is simple. Students learn best when they create real value for real people. I think that's all from our group. I hope you can understand our material, and if you have any questions, you can just comment in the comment section. Thank you. Bye, everyone.